If you're a beginner or intermediate player like me, then here are 5 simple chess concepts to keep in mind so that you can improve your ELO and stop losing so many games. Let's go. The first concept I want to talk about is protecting your back rank. This is something that happens even at my level. I'm around 1500, and so people still don't protect their back rank. I saw that if I moved to this square, I'd basically be able to fork these 2 rooks. So thinking that that was a great idea, I forgot that check was wide open right here. And rather than try to move away, I knew that I couldn't move because of the queen that's right there. And I didn't want to go over here because I didn't want him coming here. I wasn't even thinking about this knight. So what I did was I blocked with the knight. And this is where things get interesting for me, because as the guy moves here, I see that this rook is all alone on this back rank. Usually rooks are connected on the back rank. This wasn't. So I was completely okay with leaving this here and trading off because I knew I'd be able to get something like checkmate. And I also saw this rook was right here, and this back rank, my opponent did not have anything, didn't move one of the pieces to give some breathing room for the back rank. So I thought most people will see this, 99 times out of 100 people will see this, but this person didn't. So I was preparing for either a forced checkmate, because even though the queen is protecting that square, I thought 2 pieces here. So I prepared a battery for right here. But my opponent did not see this open rook. And so that is it. That was resignation, because it was forced checkmate after the queen goes here. The second simple rule to winning more games at chess is to watch your open files with your rooks and force your opponent to take on an open file so that you can take advantage of that file. So here in this position, as you can see, we have 2 rooks looking at one another. And so I want to control this file, because in my mind, as a beginner to intermediate player, I think that I can move my rook up around and I can start to attack the king. So I'm not going to take, because that could potentially be bad for me. So there's this and this. And if I take there, then my opponent then has the whole file here. And I don't have anything that I can really do with that. Okay. The other piece is that if I take here, I can lose both rooks, because that's check. I have to move out of check, and then the rook takes here, and I am just in bad shape. So most of the time, I like for my opponent to take. I don't allow this tension to resolve. I'm learning all about chess tension. I'm going to make them take. The third chess concept I want to show you has to do with knights. Knights are the most complex piece on the board, in my opinion, because they move in the most complex way. And so my tip is to always keep your king on a different colored square than the rest of your pieces. Because what happens is when you're put into check from a knight, it is a fork if your king and another piece is on the same color square. So this is a game I played where my opponent neglected that rule and ended up losing, even though I think I was behind in this game. Most games I'm behind. I have to win through sheer luck towards the end. But in this one, you can see I get a check. This is not the dangerous check. My opponent could have moved to a dark square and avoided a lot of this, but my opponent chose to move to a light square. And so what I saw was a king and a bishop on the same color square. That is something you always have to be aware of when playing, especially in endgames where you've already traded down a lot of the pieces. So what I was able to do here was I was able to go check, and with that check, I am looking at both of these pieces. And there isn't any protection here for this bishop, so I get a free piece, basically. Tips 4 and 5 go together, so I'm going to teach them to you basically at the same time, and they are that I trade pieces when I'm up material or if I can go up material, and I do not trade pieces if I am down material or will go down material. Pretty simple, right? But a lot of times I think that we just trade willy-nilly to get down to an endgame. And I don't know about you, but I struggle with endgames and pawns and moving pawns. So I try to get an advantage in any way possible and trade only when it benefits me. So in this game, as you can see, I've set myself up. I am looking right here. That is checkmate. It's not my move, unfortunately. So I was thinking, maybe my opponent won't see this. Not true. My opponent sees it and blocks, thinking, aha, not going to trade because then lose the queen. But I thought, I'm going to go up a pawn. I'm going to get a pawn right here, and I'm going to be staring at this bishop so that they can't really move this pawn easily. So I trade, and I go up a pawn. The flip side of that is that I don't trade when I'm down material, especially if I'm in as bad a shape as I am in this game. As you can see here, we both have 2 rooks. This person is up 1 pawn, but they have 2 pass pawns. I have nothing over here to stop them from advancing their pawns and eventually making another queen. So what I need to do is stop them. And I'm not going to trade. There's going to be a couple times where I could, but I'm down. So here, the opponent wants to trade because the game is so simple. My king is all the way over here, and I'd have to go, I don't know how to do, I'd have to do all this to get there, right? So they want to trade. I'm not doing that. So I put them in check. Thankfully, we don't get into a back and forth about check, although I probably would have taken a draw at this point. So I just move pieces trying to block in the king on the other side and hope against hope that I can somehow come back. Here, my opponent allows me to take a pawn, so now we're even. It's still not on the side that matters, though, because pass pawns are gold. That's just true. Like, this is going to become a queen if I'm not careful, because I can't take. These are all connected. All 3 of these things are connected. So I can't really do anything here. I just have to hope that my thinking here was that if my opponent moved this pawn, we could trade off, and then I'd be looking at this pawn and just hope I could get my king over in time to stop it. So my opponent knows, oh man, things are not in good shape for me. Right here, if I trade, I lose because I go, he goes, or she goes, I go, and I lose both rooks, and then they have a rook and a pawn over here, and that's game over. So I've got to stall. I'm not going to trade. I'm going to stall as much as I can. So here, I'm just trying to prevent one of the pawns from going because I think, oh, this is devastating for me, okay? And so here, I'm just trying to keep promotion from happening. This person has a really good plan. The plan is to put a rook behind a pawn and then promote one of them. Because if you promote to a queen, games are pretty much over. So here, I'm still just clinging to the hope that they will make a goof. And then they do. Because I start moving my king over. And now, I'm looking at, I've got 2 rooks looking at 1 piece. So I have 2 attackers. They only have 1 defender. Okay? And so this is where they made a terrible mistake because what they were trying to do was get all the stuff centered right here. But at that point, now I can take. Boom. I take. We have to trade because there is nowhere for this person to go. So they have to trade. And now I'm only down. I'm up a pawn. It's just the pawn that's there is a pass pawn. So I know that I have a pretty good position because this rook has to stay here to protect this and then maybe move the king down. This would be the way to go is move the king so that, oh, it can protect and I can move my rook around because I'm stuck right here. But my opponent eventually makes a mistake right here, thinking, okay, all right, if we trade, I get to promote. but even if I don't, I get this piece. So they're thinking these pawns are equal, and that is a huge mistake because this pawn is so much more powerful than this pawn, and I was happily going to trade this pawn for this pawn because, yeah, easy peasy. And so I end up winning this game. I don't know how, but I do manage to end up winning it because I'm able to protect my remaining pawns and force my opponent to leave. So really lucky game, but pass pawns, I guess the other side of this coin is that if you have pass pawns, they are gold. So pay attention to them, stick with them, and try to get them to the other side. You're going to play some weird, unusual openings against people. And in those situations, they obviously have found a line that they really like or an opening that they really like that most people don't play. And so what they want to do is to get you confused and doing things you shouldn't do. So the key in positions and like that is to just make your moves. Develop your pieces, take the center and castle, and then play chess because that's all you can do. You may lose a game every once in a while to a really crazy opening or line, and that's okay. But what you can do is play chess in the moment to the best of your ability. So like this opening, this is not an odd, weird, unusual opening. This is the Sicilian. I struggle against it, but it's still not that weird of an opening. But what I don't see is this version of it. So I don't see this version of it a lot. So what I do is I'm just going to do what I know to do, which is to try to trade to get my 2 pawns in the center of the board. Okay, and then I'm going to develop in castle, and that is it. Okay. Now, when my opponent moves a knight out, I am just going to protect it. There are lots of games that I have lost because I was trying to develop so quickly. I'm like, okay, I need to protect this pawn. I'm going to move my knight out. But instead, I protect. I'm just slowly developing, just like I should. Queen comes out. I continue developing. I feel like pressure's on this piece, so I am going to protect. Okay. Develop, both knights out. I'm not sure what this does necessarily, but I'm just going to keep developing, putting my pieces in the center. I'm afraid of an attack right here on this pawn. I feel like it's pretty weak. So I'm putting a knight and a bishop on it so that I have 2 defenders. And then I castle. So I hope that these 5 tips have helped you kind of conceptualize how to play chess and how to win more games. They're simple concepts, but they're ones that can help you, especially as a beginner or an intermediate player. Thanks for watching.